The night sky over Ukraine, once a background hum of civilian airliners and distant stars, has become a front line in the Russia-Ukraine war. Since the full-scale invasion, Russia has turned the airspace above cities and power plants into a pressure point, sending waves of cruise missiles and Iranian-designed Shahed suicide drones across hundreds of kilometers. These drones are not precision tools of isolated strikes. They are instruments of attrition. They probe Ukraine's air defenses, search for gaps, and relentlessly target critical infrastructure and urban centers. In Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, Dnipro, and dozens of smaller towns, the sounds of buzzing engines and air raid sirens have become part of the daily rhythm of life in wartime. For Moscow, this campaign is meant to exhaust Ukrainian air defenses, damage its energy grid, and sap the will of a society under siege. For Kyiv, every incoming drone is another test of whether the state can still protect its people while fighting along a 1,000-kilometer front line. The war has turned the sky itself into a battlefield, and both sides now see control over that space as central to their broader strategy. From the Russian perspective, drones offer a brutally pragmatic tool. Shahed-type suicide drones, produced domestically with Iranian assistance and adapted in Russian factories, are far cheaper than cruise or ballistic missiles. They can be launched in large numbers, flown on circuitous routes to confuse defenders, and mixed with missiles in complex strike packages designed to saturate Ukraine's defenses. Strategically, Russia uses these systems to hit power stations, substations, fuel depots, and urban infrastructure. The timing is often deliberate. Mass strikes before winter to turn blackouts into a political and psychological weapon, or on national holidays and symbolic dates to send a message of vulnerability. In Moscow's war planning, this air campaign is a way to stretch Ukraine's limited air defense resources and pressure Western backers to supply more interceptors and systems. Every expensive Western missile fired at a relatively cheap Shahed is, from this perspective, a small strategic success. It forces Ukraine and its partners into an unfavorable cost exchange, trading multi-million-dollar interceptors against disposable drones that Russia can replace in volume. This logic pushes the conflict toward an industrial contest. The more Russia can shift from scarce high-end missiles to cheaper unmanned systems, the more it believes it can sustain pressure on Ukraine's cities and infrastructure over the long term. On the Ukrainian side, the first phases of this drone onslaught revealed a painful imbalance. Ukraine entered the full-scale war with aging Soviet-era systems like S-300 and Buk, and gradually received Western systems such as NASAMS, Iris-T, and Patriot. These were highly effective but limited in number, and their missiles were never designed to counter constant, low-cost drone swarms night after night. In the early waves of Shahed attacks, Ukrainian defenders often faced impossible choices. A slow, noisy drone heading toward a substation might be met with a missile worth dozens or hundreds of times more. Local territorial defense units tried to help with machine guns, searchlights, and improvised tactics, but low-flying drones at night are hard to see, harder to hit, and dangerous to engage over populated areas. Kyiv and its partners quickly understood that simply adding more high-end missile batteries would not solve the problem. The economic logic was brutal. If defending each civilian building or transformer required missiles that could not be easily replaced, then over time the attacker would gain the advantage. The war was forcing Ukraine to rethink its entire approach to air defense, not at the level of a single system, but at the level of strategy. This realization set the stage for a crucial shift. A move toward mass-produced, low-cost interceptor drones that could restore balance to the cost equation of the air war. Across Ukraine, from basements in Kyiv to workshops in Lviv and industrial sites far from the front, engineers, volunteers, and entrepreneurs began experimenting with a new idea: drones that would hunt other drones. Drawing on civilian drone racing culture, commercial parts, and open-source flight software, they started building prototypes of small, agile interceptors that could be sacrificed without hesitation. One of the most notable efforts came from the startup General Cherry and its Bullet interceptor. Designed to be as affordable as possible, Bullet was conceived around a simple principle. If the enemy sends a drone costing tens of thousands or more, Ukraine should be able to destroy it with something an order of magnitude cheaper. At roughly $1,000 per unit, these interceptors offered exactly that. At the same time, military units began fielding other designs, such as the Sting, a compact interceptor resembling a thermos with wings. These systems were tailored to the realities of the war: rapid deployment from vans or pickup trucks, quick setup with portable antennas and sensors, and integration into the existing air defense network. By early 2025, what had started as improvised experiments had become a production effort. Designs moved from concept to battlefield in months, not years. Each Russian strike provided fresh data on drone routes, electronic signatures, and weaknesses. Each Ukrainian interception fed back into refinements in software and hardware. The war itself became a vast, relentless testing ground for this new class of weapon. When a Russian drone wave begins, the battle in the sky unfolds in layers. Radar stations, acoustic sensors, and passive listening posts detect the launch of Shaheds and other unmanned systems. This information flows into Ukrainian command centers, where officers build a picture of the incoming threats, their speed, altitude, direction, and likely targets. High-value threats heading toward major cities or strategic power plants might still be assigned to Patriot or S-300 missiles. But many drones, especially those judged to be on less critical vectors, are earmarked for engagement by interceptor drones. On the ground, small interceptor teams receive coordinates and engagement orders. They roll out equipment cases, raise antennas on tripods, connect thermal cameras, and link their control stations to the wider network. From a muddy field on the edge of a city or a hidden rooftop, they launch Sting or Bullet interceptors into the dark. Operators wearing FPV goggles or watching rugged monitors climb their drones toward calculated intercept points. On their screens, enemy drones appear as faint heat signatures or distant glimmers. Guidance software assists, but the human pilot makes fine adjustments, steering the interceptor into the path of the incoming Shahed. In the final seconds, the encounter is brutally direct. The Ukrainian drone closes the gap and collides with or detonates near its target. A flash lights up the clouds, debris falls harmlessly beyond the city limits, and one more link in Russia's strike package is severed. For the Ukrainian war effort, each successful intercept is both a tactical victory and a small strategic correction to the economic imbalance of the conflict. From the vantage point of both Kyiv and Moscow, the drone war is increasingly an economic and technological arms race. On the Russian side, suicide drones are meant to be cheap enough to launch in large numbers, while still forcing defenders to expend scarce, expensive interceptors. On the Ukrainian side, low-cost interceptor drones are designed to break that logic, inflicting disproportionately high losses on the attacker at minimal cost. Andriy Lavrinovich of General Cherry has noted that the drones his company's interceptors destroy often cost from $10,000 to $300,000 each. Multiplying that cost difference across dozens or hundreds of engagements, Ukraine aims to impose real economic strain on Russia's drone campaign, not just material losses. Russia, in turn, adapts its drones to make interception harder. Shaheds and their derivatives are upgraded with jammers to interfere with GPS and control links, cameras to refine targeting, and in some cases turbojet engines to increase speed and altitude. These changes challenge Ukrainian interceptors to fly faster, climb higher, and resist electronic interference. Each adaptation on one side prompts a counter-adaptation on the other. For Moscow, sustaining the campaign is a question of industrial capacity and access to foreign components under sanctions. For Kyiv, it is a question of accelerating domestic production, securing supplies from partners, and training enough operators and technicians to maintain the pace. In this sense, the Russia-Ukraine war has become a laboratory for future drone-on-drone conflict worldwide. As the Russia-Ukraine war grinds on, the air war foreshadows a broader transformation in how conflicts will be fought. The interaction between Russian strike drones and Ukrainian interceptor drones points toward a future where much of the struggle for airspace is waged by unmanned, relatively low-cost systems networked into larger command structures. Defense analysts like Federico Borsari argue that cheap interceptor drones have suddenly become a cornerstone of modern counter-drone doctrine. They make it possible to defend more targets more of the time, and they help realign the cost and scale equation of air defense in favor of defenders. But their effectiveness still hinges on the quality of the surrounding infrastructure: sensors that can see small drones against cluttered backgrounds, communications networks resilient to jamming, and software that can fuse data from many sources quickly. In the Russia-Ukraine context, this evolution is far from complete. New generations of drones, loitering munitions, and interceptors are already in development on both sides. Autonomy and artificial intelligence, still cautiously employed, may play a larger role in future iterations, reducing reaction times and further intensifying the pace of adaptation. For now, each night that Russian drones rise into the air and Ukrainian interceptors lift off to meet them is another step in this trajectory. The war has turned the skies over Ukraine into the world's most intense live experiment in drone versus drone warfare, with lessons that will influence military planning from Eastern Europe to the Pacific. Seen from Kyiv, the rise of low-cost interceptors is part of a broader strategy of survival. Ukraine is fighting a larger, better-resourced adversary, whose war economy has increasingly shifted to long-term confrontation. Against this backdrop, Ukraine must use innovation to offset quantitative disadvantages. Cheap interceptors, rapid adaptation, and integration of civilian technology into military systems are ways of stretching limited resources while maintaining the ability to protect the rear and keep the economy functioning. From Moscow's perspective, the drone campaign remains a central tool in pressuring Ukraine and signaling to the West that supporting Kyiv has costs. By maintaining a persistent threat over cities and critical infrastructure, Russia seeks to erode Ukrainian morale, drive up reconstruction expenses, and complicate Western political calculations. If Ukraine's interceptors become too effective, however, the Kremlin faces a choice: invest more heavily in advanced drones and missiles, seek new ways to saturate or bypass defenses, or adjust its strategy. Both sides understand that this war will be decided not only at the front line, but also in factories, research labs, and command centers. The contest between Russian suicide drones and Ukrainian interceptor drones reflects a deeper question: which side can innovate faster, mobilize industry more effectively, and sustain the economic burden of a long war? As the Russia-Ukraine war grinds on, the air war foreshadows a broader transformation in how conflicts will be fought. The interaction between Russian strike drones and Ukrainian interceptor drones points toward a future where much of the struggle for airspace is waged by unmanned, relatively low-cost systems networked into larger command structures. Defense analysts like Federico Borsari argue that cheap interceptor drones have suddenly become a cornerstone of modern counter-drone doctrine. They make it possible to defend more targets more of the time, and they help realign the cost and scale equation of air defense in favor of defenders. But their effectiveness still hinges on the quality of the surrounding infrastructure: sensors that can see small drones against cluttered backgrounds, communications networks resilient to jamming, and software that can fuse data from many sources quickly. In the Russia-Ukraine context, this evolution is far from complete. New generations of drones, loitering munitions, and interceptors are already in development on both sides. Autonomy and artificial intelligence, still cautiously employed, may play a larger role in future iterations, reducing reaction times and further intensifying the pace of adaptation. For now, each night that Russian drones rise into the air and Ukrainian interceptors lift off to meet them is another step in this trajectory. The war has turned the skies over Ukraine into the world's most intense live experiment in drone versus drone warfare, with lessons that will influence military planning from Eastern Europe to the Pacific. The clash between Russia's aerial assault and Ukraine's low-cost drone shield remains unresolved. Russia continues to refine its suicide drones and tactics, seeking ways to break through or overwhelm Ukraine's defenses. Ukraine, in turn, pushes to field more interceptors, better sensors, and faster command systems, determined to keep its cities lit and its population protected while fighting on the ground. Behind every technical development lies the human reality of war. Families sheltering in basements as the sound of engines passes overhead. Technicians assembling equipment in freezing fields. Operators staring at grainy screens, knowing that a speck of light in the sky may be heading for a hospital or power plant. From a distance, the contest can be framed in terms of economics and technology, cost curves, production lines, innovation cycles. Up close, it is about whether a country under attack can adapt quickly enough to preserve the essentials of modern life: electricity, heat, water, and a measure of safety for its citizens. In the perspective of the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine's deployment of low-cost interceptor drones is more than a tactical adaptation. It is a strategic statement that in an age of massed, relatively cheap aerial threats, the defender will not be trapped into fighting an unaffordable war in the skies. Instead, through ingenuity and rapid wartime innovation, Ukraine is working to reshape the balance, one interception at a time, night after night, over a country still fighting for its survival.